The date is April 5th, 1992. As the cavernous Indiana Hoosier Dome is suddenly engulfed in inky blackness, a palpable frisson of excitement ripples through the 62,000-strong crowd, their collective breath held in eager anticipation of the spectacle about to unfold. Then, finally, it happens. The arena is flooded with the powerful, almost regal tones of Also Sprach Zarathustra by Richard Strauss. The crowd ignites as a figure steps through the curtain, his presence larger than life. Dressed in a dazzling, sequined robe that reflects every light in the stadium, he looks like a king descending to his throne. Platinum blonde hair, perfectly styled, and a walk that oozes arrogance and untouchable confidence. This is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, the reigning WWF Champion, and he's about to settle the score with the one and only Macho Man, Randy Savage, at WrestleMania 8. But make no mistake, this isn't just another championship defense. This is a collision between two of wrestling's most celebrated icons. Flair, at 43 years old, is ready to prove he's still the best in the business, and Savage, the unhinged, unpredictable force who's looking to reclaim his elite status within the Federation. As Flair makes his way to the ring, the tension is thick. This is a monumental clash, not just of egos, but of legacies. The bell rings, and for 18 minutes, they don't just wrestle, they tear each other apart. The action is brutal, but the storytelling is poetic. The match leaves Savage victorious, but Flair, as always, steals the spotlight. Yet this battle, like many in his career, was only the surface. Behind the glitter and glamour, Flair's journey was anything but easy. Financial struggles, real-life rivalries, and backstage feuds colored his career with a level of drama no script could ever match, including some disturbing allegations regarding his off-camera behavior. But to truly understand the impact and legacy of the Nature Boy, we need to go back to the beginning, to the events that shaped the man who would become one of professional wrestling's most legendary figures. Richard Morgan Flair was born on February 25, 1949, in Memphis, Tennessee. However, his story truly begins when he was adopted as an infant. The family moved to a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where young Rick would spend his formative years. Growing up, Flair was a natural athlete, excelling in football, track, and wrestling at Wayland Academy. After a brief stint at the University of Minnesota, Flair's life took a dramatic turn when he dropped out and met Olympic weightlifter Ken Patera, who introduced him to Vern Gagne, the owner of the American Wrestling Association. Gagne saw potential in the young Flair and invited him to join his wrestling camp. The training was notoriously brutal, with the trainees being pushed to their physical and mental limits. On December 10, 1972, Ric Flair made his professional debut wrestling a 10-minute draw against George "Scrap Iron" Gadaski in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. It was an inauspicious start, but it marked the beginning of a career that would span nearly 5 decades and revolutionize the wrestling industry. Flair's early years in the business were marked by hard work and constant improvement. He wrestled for various promotions, including the American Wrestling Association, National Wrestling Alliance, and International Wrestling Enterprise in Japan. It was during this time that he began to develop the flamboyant Nature Boy persona that would define his career. The moniker Nature Boy was actually borrowed from the esteemed Buddy Rogers, a wrestler Flair greatly admired. With his bleach blonde hair, expensive suits, and cocky demeanor, Flair took the gimmick and made it his own, infusing it with his natural charisma and flair for the dramatic. Flair's big break came in 1974 when he joined Jim Crockett Promotions, a member of the NWA. It was here that he would truly begin to make his mark on the wrestling world. The next year, on February 9, 1975, Flair captured his first major singles title, defeating Paul Jones for the Mid-Atlantic Television Championship. However, Flair's rising star was nearly extinguished before it had a chance to truly shine. On October 4, 1975, he was involved in a serious plane crash in Wilmington, North Carolina. The crash killed the pilot and paralyzed fellow wrestler Johnny Valentine. Flair broke his back in 3 places and was told by doctors that he would never wrestle again. But Ric Flair was not a man to be denied. Through sheer force of will and an intense rehabilitation program, he defied the odds and returned to the ring just 3 months later. The experience only seemed to fuel his drive and determination, pushing him to greater heights in the years that followed. It also led to a change in his in-ring style, moving away from power moves to focus more on psychology and storytelling. This period saw Flair engage in memorable feuds with Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, and Harley Race, among others. His in-ring ability was matched only by his skills on the microphone, where his promos became the stuff of legend. Flair had a unique ability to make his opponents look strong, while simultaneously building himself up as the man to beat. And then, on September 17, 1981, Ric Flair reached the pinnacle of his profession, defeating Dusty Rhodes to win his first NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This victory marked the beginning of Flair's dominance in the NWA, as he would go on to capture the title a total of 8 times over the next decade. One of the most memorable periods of Flair's career came in 1985, with the formation of the Four Horsemen. Alongside Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard, Flair led one of the most dominant and influential stables in wrestling history. The Four Horsemen set the standard for heel factions, combining in-ring excellence with a lifestyle of luxury and excess that perfectly complemented Flair's nature boy persona. As the 1980s progressed, Flair's reputation continued to grow. His matches with Ricky Steamboat in 1989 are still considered some of the greatest of all time. The trilogy, which took place at Chi-Town Rumble, Clash of the Champions 6, and Wrestle War, showcased Flair's technical prowess and storytelling ability. Despite his success, Flair's relationship with WCW eventually began to sour. Creative differences with executive Jim Herd led to Flair's departure from the company in 1991. And then, in a shocking move, Flair appeared on WWF television, still carrying the WCW World Heavyweight Championship belt, which he claimed as a security deposit owed to him by WCW. This blurring of the lines between reality and storyline was unprecedented at the time and created a buzz in the wrestling world. Flair's WWF run, while relatively short, produced several memorable moments. His appearance at the 1992 Royal Rumble, where he entered at number 3 and lasted over an hour to win the vacant championship, is considered one of the greatest performances in the event's history. Flair eliminated 5 other competitors and outlasted 29 other wrestlers to capture his first WWF Championship. Then his WrestleMania 8 match with Randy Savage, which we opened with, further cemented his legacy. The storyline leading up to the match was particularly controversial, with Flair claiming to have had a previous relationship with Savage's manager and real-life wife, Miss Elizabeth. This added a personal edge to their rivalry and demonstrated Flair's ability to get under his opponent's skin, both in and out of the ring. However, Flair's heart remained with WCW, and he returned to the company in 1993. The next few years saw him engage in high-profile feuds with the likes of Hulk Hogan, Sting, and Vader. Flair's rivalry with Hulk Hogan was particularly significant, as it pitted 2 of wrestling's biggest icons against each other. And while opinions on the quality of their matches itself were mixed, the star power involved was undeniable. As WCW entered the Monday Night Wars with WWF in the mid-1990s, Flair's relationship with WCW management, particularly Eric Bischoff, was often strained, leading to several on-screen and off-screen disputes. One of the most notorious incidents occurred in April 1998, when Flair no-showed a WCW Thunder taping due to a dispute over time off. This led to a lawsuit between Flair and WCW, which was eventually settled out of court. During this period, Flair engaged in a long-running storyline with NWO, often standing as one of the few loyalists against the invading faction. WCW's fortunes began to decline in the late 1990s, and the company was eventually purchased by WWE in March 2001. Flair's return to WWE sparked a career renaissance. He initially took on a non-wrestling role as the on-screen co-owner of the company, but it wasn't long before he was back in the ring. His feud with Undertaker, which culminated in a match at WrestleMania 18 on March 17, 2002, proved that even at 53, Flair could still deliver in high-pressure situations. The following years saw Flair engage in memorable feuds with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Randy Orton. He also formed the stable Evolution, echoing his earlier success with the Four Horsemen. This new group dominated Raw for the better part of 2 years, with Flair serving as the veteran mentor to younger stars. And while applause is certainly in order, why exactly was Flair still subjecting his body to the physical demands of wrestling during his golden years? The reality is that Flair's financial financial troubles, spanning decades, paint a portrait of a wrestling icon, grappling with the consequences of fiscal mismanagement and an unsustainable lifestyle. From a $62,000 IRS demand in 1990 to a staggering $1.7 million debt by 2009, Flair's financial woes escalated dramatically, compelling him to continue wrestling well into his 60s despite a $400,000 WWE salary. His penchant for extravagant spending, exemplified by a $100,000 engagement ring purchase and thousands spent monthly on travel and dining, even amidst crushing debt, coupled with mounting legal battles against banks, ex-business partners, and the IRS, illustrate a stark disconnect between his exalted status in the ring and his ability to manage his finances outside of it. This financial quagmire, exacerbated by Flair's apparent inability to curb his spending habits, not only forced the WWE to garnish his wages, but also led to questionable decisions like using a world title belt as collateral for multiple companies simultaneously, underscoring the depth of his financial desperation. Flair's career is also littered with a plethora of backstage problems and real-life feuds, starting with WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long's allegations of Ric Flair's unapologetic racial hostility in the 1980s, suggesting a disconcerting continuity in the Nature Boy's interpersonal conduct that stands in stark contrast to his celebrated in-ring persona. Flair also had a contentious relationship with Mick Foley, largely due to Foley's criticism of Flair's booking decisions during his career. In his autobiography, Foley described Flair as being as ineffective in booking as he was brilliant in the ring. Flair fired back in his own memoir, dismissing Foley as a glorified stuntman. Their rivalry even led to a physical altercation in 2004, followed by a brutal 2006 program that featured some of Flair's bloodiest matches. Despite their past tensions, the two have since reconciled and are now friends. Yet throughout the years, there have been several other acrimonious feuds with high-profile wrestlers, including Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Bruno Sammartino, and Shane Douglas, each marked by intense personal rivalries that blurred the lines between scripted drama and genuine animosity. One of the most notorious incidents in Flair's career unfolded during the infamous 2002 plane ride from hell. Flair was accused of wearing only his signature robe and allegedly exposing himself to flight attendant Heidi Doyle, pressuring her to touch him, a claim that led to a lawsuit against the WWE, which was later settled out of court. Despite no formal punishment from WWE at the time, the scandal resurfaced in 2021 when it was featured in the Dark Side of the Ring documentary. Flair denied the allegations, but the controversy resulted in his removal from WWE's iconic intro video. Throughout his career, Flair's personal life often mirrored the excess of his on-screen persona. He has been married and divorced multiple times, and his struggles with alcoholism have been well documented. Writing in his autobiography, Flair was candid about his flaws and the toll his lifestyle had taken on his personal relationships. Yet undoubtedly, Flair's legacy in professional wrestling remains rock solid. He is a 16-time world champion, though he claims the number is actually higher and is widely regarded as one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. But perhaps Flair's greatest contribution to professional wrestling was his ability to elevate not just himself, but everyone he worked with. Whether as a heel or a face, Flair had the unique ability to make his opponents look like $1 million, even in defeat. His matches were masterclasses in psychology and storytelling, demonstrating that wrestling, at its best, is a form of physical theater capable of evoking genuine emotion from its audience. In the end, Ric Flair's legacy is not just about championships won or matches competed. It's about the indelible mark he left on an entire industry, the countless fans he inspired, and the standard of excellence he set for generations of wrestlers to come. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Ric Flair was, is, and always will be a true icon of professional wrestling whose influence will be felt for decades to come. As the Nature Boy himself would say, whether you like it or not, learn to love it because it's the best thing going. Thank you for watching.